This is Tanner Jacobson and his co-defendant Cody Howard, who are both in court for multiple charges, including reckless driving and driving without a license in Chehalis, Washington. As court wraps up for the day, defendants are led back to their cells. But these defendants had another idea. They burst away from the group and made a run for it. Still handcuffed, the boys dashed out of the courtroom, but the judge was hot on their trail. The criminals burst into the hallway, where Howard tripped on his sandal and face planted onto the carpet. Still in pursuit, Judge Buzzard followed him into the stairwell. Jacobson burst into the stairwell first, with Howard just seconds behind him. Flying down the stairs, Jacobson pulls ahead, but Howard loses ground. Finally, Jacobson runs outside. However, Cody wasn't so lucky. The judge caught his shirt just before he reached the door. Shortly after, other officers found Jacobson just blocks away.
I only get like 4 blocks and then I stop. I just stopped on my own. I'm like, what am I doing right now?
Their sentence, which might have been 30 days on the original charges, was extended to 6 years. This duo's escape may have been the most blood-pumping thing to happen in that judge's career. But how can that compare to a Russian Satanist who tries to crawl through the ceiling? This is Leonid Grazer, who's charged with capital murder in Moscow, Russia. According to Russian newspapers, Grazer claims Satan told him to kill his little sister. After her murder, he took off his clothes and drew satanic symbols in her blood. In court, Grazer was just as creepy. Trapped in a cage, Grazer tried to fit through the door slot, to no avail. But he didn't give up. Later, he pulled himself through the bars of the ceiling. Panicked, deputies tried scaling the cage to bring Grazer back down, but they couldn't reach him. Grazer almost made it into the courthouse ceiling before one deputy grabbed his leg. Desperate for freedom, Grazer was willing to risk it all, even his pants. Then deputies threatened Grazer with a taser.
Помогите мне! Помогите мне! Помогите! Дайте руку! Дайте руку! Дайте мне руку! Пускайте, говорю!
Pantless and out of options, Grazer gave up.
Спустись, блядь! Долбоёб, блядь!
He lowered himself back into the cage under the watchful eyes of the police. Further details of Grazer's case have been classified, including his sentence. But rest assured, he'll never see sunlight again. Even though the deputies could witness Grazer's escape, it proved surprisingly difficult to stop him. So what happens when an inmate disguises themselves as a passerby and escapes in plain sight? This is Gerald Hyde II, who's in court for meth possession in Washington State. Having just been officially charged, police lead the group of defendants back to the jail for the night. Or not. While nobody was watching, Hyde slipped out the back of the hallway. Now in the empty courtroom, Hyde quickly takes off his prison shirt and wraps it around his hands, hiding his handcuffs. Then he speed walks through the court hallways, ditching his orange sandals on the way. The simplicity of his disguise is shocking, but even more shocking is that it works. Hyde walks right past security and out the front doors, a free man. Unfortunately for Hyde, police caught him 2 hours later hiding in his friend's apartment. Even more unfortunately, Hyde's original charges were dropped, but his escape earned him 2 years in prison. Hyde escaped with nothing but his bare feet. But what happens when a desperate escapee gets behind the wheel? This is Cyrus Matthews, charged with reckless operation of a vehicle in Wadsworth, Ohio. Matthews was arrested for a road rage incident back in 2017. Now in court, he's hoping to get let off easy, but he's about to get bad news.
I'm sorry for, acting immature on the road. I understand that, being on the road, you do have other people's lives in your hand. And, I should have thought about that. Well, is there like any way that we can reverse this jail time?
Well, you're going to go to jail today. If you need to get out to attend the hearing, we can consider furloughs.
Matthews looks visibly stressed, but nobody expected his next move.
Okay, right now you're going to go to jail, man. Okay? So you have to go today, right? Come on,
Matthews just walks out. His lawyer chases after him and Matthews seems to reconsider, but when his girlfriend appears, they both make a run for it. Deputies quickly give chase, but Matthews is much faster. One team tracks Matthews through street cameras, while another team gives chase.
Turn north onto Lyman from Maple. He was in an older gray four-door vehicle.
28, he's not. He's running red lights at Hartman. Passing on the right at Williams Reserve. My speed's 90, trying to catch up. Wadsworth, I think we're going to have a code 2. We're going to have a code 2 at Akron, 76.
But by the time they catch up, it's too late. Matthews had flown through an intersection, hitting a white van with a baby inside before slamming into a pole seconds later.
Where's he at? All right, we're going to have multiple vehicles, airbag deployment. Ma'am, are you okay? Okay. Ashley, help them get out. Help them get out. He's up here. Breathe in and out. 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 Wadsworth, I'm going to need multiple squads.
I need help, sir.
Okay. Okay. Tight.
Trapped in the car, Matthews finally confesses his motive.
What was going on? Why were you taking off?
Because they're trying to lock me up for 90 days and I have a whole life.
So what happened?
I tried to run like...
Why?
I don't know.
Thankfully, the family in the white van walked away with no injuries. But Matthews and his girlfriend, after being rescued from that burning car, were taken to the hospital for serious injuries. Matthews' car escape ended terribly. But what happens when inmates try to escape using a prison bus? This is Tracy Mobley, charged with aggravated theft and drug possession in Columbus, Ohio. And this is co-defendant Mary Morrissey, who's charged with drunk driving. After the arraignment hearing, this group of prisoners was led back to the prison bus. To prevent escape, they were shackled in pairs. But that didn't stop this duo. Last in line, the two easily slipped underneath the bus. As other prisoners found their seats, Mobley and Morrissey, still chained together, wrapped their legs around the bus's underbelly and held on for dear life. Unaware of the missing prisoners, the bus driver left the prison, with two stowaways still underneath the bus. 5 minutes later, when the bus hit the brakes at a red light, the women came crashing to the ground. Morrissey, who somehow broke free from her handcuffs, made her escape. Unluckily for her, though, a private detective witnessed her escape while in his car at the red light. He quickly ran after her.
I thought they were filming a movie somewhere, and I looked all around. I was about to back up because I didn't want to spoil their scene. Then I realized it was a real escape attempt.
Meanwhile, Mobley was found on camera, hiding in the bushes by a freeway. Police did successfully rearrest her, although she was injured during the scuffle. Seconds later, the private detective appears again, this time with Morrissey in handcuffs behind him.
They were surprised. I said, "You guys want your prisoner back?" And they looked at me like they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know that there had been an attempt to escape.
In the end, Mobley was sentenced to 4 years in prison for her escape attempt, plus her original charges. Her partner in crime got 3 years probation. These women risked it all for this life-threatening escape attempt. But how does that compare to a defendant who simply strolls out the front door? This is Joey Watts, who's facing charges for felony possession of a firearm and aggravated assault in Sheridan, Arkansas. Watts, who was arrested for threatening a woman with that firearm, pled not guilty to his charges, but as he waited for the jury to deliberate, he decided to take a little stroll. He calmly walks right out of the courtroom doors without anyone realizing something was amiss. Watts walked as fast as he dared. He even waved at the receptionist on his way out, as if he was another court attendee. Then he leaves, just like that. He's free. Once outside, Watts breaks into a run. He jogs into a nearby neighborhood where he disappears. But his escape didn't last long, though. Just 24 hours later, police found him and rearrested him, this time for good. The judge sentences him to 36 years for his original charges. Watts walked himself to freedom on his own 2 feet. But what happens when a convict enlists the help of a partner in crime? This is Callum Finter, charged with aiding and abetting an escape in Bradford, England. Finter was at court that day to support his teenage friend, who had just become a convicted phone thief. As his friend nears the exit, Finter scoots closer and closer to the big red button on the wall, and then bam! Finter presses the button, and the courtroom security doors fly open. The teenage defendant escapes down the hallway with security hot on his heels. The teenager leads police on a run through the courtroom and none of them can catch up. Still unnoticed, Finter slips out the side door. Security footage catches the teenager running off into the bushes, losing the officers. Then he heads to an unknown location where Finter is already waiting for him. Luckily, the phone thief was recaptured 2 days later and sentenced to 6 months for the escape. And as for Finter, he was given 3 months in jail for being an accomplice. This troublesome duo thought they could escape by walking slowly and acting natural. But how does that compare to a defendant who bursts out of the courtroom like his tail's on fire? This is Eddie Villalobos, who's charged with murder in Hillsboro, Oregon. After fatally stabbing 33-year-old Artemio Guzman Olvera in April of 2021, Villalobos was arrested and tried for that murder. Now, before the jury entered the courtroom, deputies undid his shackles, but they would quickly regret it. As soon as that last shackle is off of him, Villalobos bolts. He bursts through the hallway. With the police seconds behind him, he runs straight for the exit, slamming the entryway door behind him to gain valuable time. Villalobos was determined to escape, and no wayward employee would stand in his way. With both officers light years behind him, Villalobos' freedom was guaranteed. Or was it? Hours later, a nearby resident reported a suspected break-in at their neighbor's empty apartment. When the police arrived, they found something unbelievable. In the closet, hiding underneath a blanket, was Eddie Villalobos. He was rearrested, and this time the judge made sure he wouldn't get away. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in jail. Villalobos' escape from trial was undoubtedly impressive. But what happens when the escape begins before the defendant even enters the courthouse? This is Israel Pointer, who's in court today for aggravated robbery, possession of a firearm, and murder in Oklahoma City. But that's not all. Pointer was in extra trouble for skipping his last court date. And because of that, the judge revokes his bond, meaning Pointer won't be leaving the courthouse without handcuffs. But Israel had other ideas. Pointer fled down the hallway, dodging every police officer in his path. Even these two deputies in the narrow hallway couldn't stop him. Still on the run, Pointer makes it to the final stretch, the courthouse entryway. But he wasn't counting on this hero. This is DA David Prater, and he's the only man standing between Pointer and freedom. Prater unbuttoned his suit jacket and got into position. He grabbed onto Pointer, slowing him down just enough for the surrounding attorneys to help capture him. Pointer was dragged back to court, this time heavily guarded. For his escape attempt, the judge sentenced Pointer to 6 months in county jail. And for his original charges, Pointer was sentenced to life in jail. Israel turned into a track star to earn his freedom. But now what happens when a defendant attempts to escape in a wheelchair? This is Joel Delgado, charged with residential burglary, armed robbery, and even shooting his own girlfriend in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, Delgado claimed he was critically injured during the initial arrest, hence the wheelchair as he arrived in court. The courthouse deputy dutifully wheeled him toward the entrance, but little did he know Delgado was already hatching his plan. It started with his prison slippers.
What'd you say, OJ? My shoe. Hey, you see a shoe back there? Where is it?
He told the deputy that his slipper had fallen off. But as the deputy leaned down to retrieve it, Delgado made his escape. The deputy quickly chases after him, but the weight of all his equipment slowed him down.
Oh, I'm gonna catch you, man. I'm gonna shoot your face.
Despite the deputy's resolve, Delgado quickly gains the lead. And when the deputy rounds the corner,
what way to go? This way?
Delgado was nowhere to be found.
God damn.
Caught without his radio, the deputy had to ask another citizen for help.
Let me, which way you go? Nah, which way you go?
We went straight through the alley and cut that way.
What's your phone? My damn radio came out.
Finally, he called for backup.
Hello? Hey, Hook. The wheelchair dude got up and ran. Yeah. I couldn't catch his ass. And my radio was in the mother. I had my camera on, though. The wheelchair dude. I couldn't catch him here. Teams had pulled off.
Defeated, the deputy went back to the courthouse.
Hey, he took off, man. The wheelchair dude ran. He had a neck brace on and all that shit.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Didn't need that wheelchair very much, did he?
Hell no. Dude ran, man. Yeah, where's my radio? Yes, he did. Dude ran? Hell yeah. What? He took off? Yeah, ride straight up this street. Oh, snap, man.
The deputy's partner arrived, but they both knew it was a lost cause. Officers searched the area but came up empty. And just as they're about to call it quits, a miracle happened. Delgado was spotted at a nearby Dollar General. They immediately put him in handcuffs, but Delgado started screaming, claiming he was critically injured. The police had to hand him over to medics for treatment, but they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Delgado was strapped onto the stretcher, making escape impossible.